I'm Kim. I'm the Child Development Specialist here at LAMP Early On. And for the month of March, we are going to be looking at typical child development that you will see throughout the ages from 0 all the way up until about the 4 or 5-year-old stage. So for this video, we will be focusing on developmental milestones that you would typically see through the 0 to 1 year mark. We're going to go through all that info as well as some strategies you can do at home to help promote those major crucial milestones. Now keep in mind that it is a range, so your little ones, depending on the environment, as well as on them and their personality, they might hit milestones a little bit quicker or a little bit slower than others. But as always, if you have any questions or concerns or very specific questions, you can always reach out and email me. My personal email is always in the description box of all of these developmental videos. So let's just jump right in. So we will be looking more in depth about what you can expect to see developmentally during the first year of your little one's life, as well as some simple strategies and tips that you can do at home to promote thinking skills for your little ones. So we will be discussing your little one's physical development, social development, emotional development, their cognitive development, as well as their language development in the first 12 months of their life. So for 1-month-olds, or really 0 to 3-month-olds, you'll notice that for more physical and movement, they have really strong reflexes, as well as they will keep their hands in a tight fist. Their head will flop backwards if it's unsupported, which is why we always say to support their head. For their visual and their hearing, they're still trying to adjust their eyesight, so their focus is really only 8 to 12 inches away, which is usually the same distance between your face and theirs when you're holding them close. They'll prefer black and white or very high contrast pictures and patterns, which is why you'll see a lot of the infant books that are targeted for babies 0 to 3 months are all in black and white or red and black, those type of high contrasting colors. They will also prefer human faces to other patterns. Their hearing has fully matured. They can recognize a little bit of sounds, and they may turn towards familiar sounds or familiar voices, so like your voice. As for their sensory, so smell and touch, you might notice that they'll prefer sweet smells and they will avoid bitter or acidic smells. And if you are breastfeeding, they will recognize the scent of their own mother's breast milk, and they'll prefer soft over coarse fabric, material, sensations, and they will dislike rough or abrupt handling. So not too much for the first month or so. But then we go into the 3 to 6 month mark. And this is when things kind of rapidly start developing. So this is when they're going to start trying to control their own body between the ages of 3 and 6 months. So they'll start pushing themselves up to see people. They will be able to sit upright assisted, so they will need help sitting upright, but they can. You might start to notice that they'll rock back and forth on their hands and their knees to get ready to crawl. they can start having use in their hands and their fingers to explore. So they'll reach out and grasp objects and toys, and they'll use their whole hand to try and grasp it, not just the fingers, but the whole hand. They can communicate by sounds and by actions and by facial expressions. So, meaning when you shake a rattle or when you have their favorite toy, they'll smile and they'll move their arms and their legs to let you know that they want you to keep playing or keep making that sound. And they can make a few different sounds in response to your voice. So they'll coo, they'll babble, or they'll gurgle. And then they're still trying to explore and get used to the world around them. So they may start to develop a more regular eating and sleeping schedule between the ages of 3 to 6 months. And then you'll notice that they'll start preferring a daily routine. So now they're learning that when you turn the lights down, that it might signal a bedtime. So things that you can do to try to encourage these types of development. So if you're wanting them to have a little bit more control over their body, rocking back and forth, it's the beginning of crawling, or they're pushing themselves up, like tummy time. You can make sure that they get time to play on both back and their stomach to kind of help them promote things like rolling and crawling. Help them sit up with support, and this way it allows them to explore new things. So they won't be able to sit up by themselves just yet, but you can support them. And then also offering baby toys to explore that have different shapes, different sizes, textures, and sounds, and show them ways to use the objects by either shaking them, pushing them, dropping them. When they start to communicate through either if your baby babbles, if your baby coos, or if your baby gurgles, watch and respond to their signals. If you are smiling, then your little one will think your little one will think that they're looking in the mirror. So you can always mirror their facial gestures, and you can have a back and forth conversation with your little one. So whenever you reply to their coos, to their babbles, to their gurgles, so baby talk, then you're helping them learn how to talk and how to have a communication, a conversation, even if they are not using actual words just yet. And to get them used to the world around them, you can start creating a routine for your baby at this age. So help them learn that it's time to sleep by doing the same thing each night, whether that's taking a bath or reading a bedtime book or feeding them and singing them a lullaby. Or you can even make up a song that you sing to get them ready to feed your baby. Each time they hear it, they'll know that food is coming, and this way it can calm them down and help them learn how to wait. So by 6 to 9 months of age, this is when you'll notice that their cognitive skills and their cognitive development have really rapidly improved. So this is when they're starting to learn how to think and problem solve for themselves. When a toy drops on the floor, they'll look to see where it goes. And you'll notice at this age, between 6 and 9 months, is when they will start throwing things to the ground. So throwing toys, spoons if they're holding it onto the ground. That's not because they're trying to annoy you. It's really because they're just starting to learn about gravity, and they really want to see where the toy went. And they're also figuring out how things work by copying what they see around them. So you can really help encourage these skills by commenting on what your little one does as it happens. So you use your voice to let me know you wanted to keep playing peekaboo, or, oh, I see you're dropping the toy. I guess now you learned that things fall. and let your baby explore interesting objects like toys with buttons to push. They can also start controlling their body a little bit better. So now, instead of picking things up with their full hand, you'll start seeing that they'll start trying to pick up objects using their fingers. They can now, at 6 to 9 months, sit on their own, which will help them explore new ways. And then they can crawl or they can scoot to get around. And they might even start trying to pull themselves up to stand using furniture or tables or stuff like that. And you can encourage these skills by letting your child start practicing picking up baby-safe food, like bananas or other soft food, baby food if you want them to do it by hand, as long as it's okay for them to start doing that. You can also give your baby time to move around on their own, which builds muscle strength and coordination. For their language skills, you'll notice that the babbling and the baby talk, the cooing, is now in full force. This is because they're working really hard to try and communicate with you. They're going to babble a lot, and when someone talks to your little one, they're going to make a sound right back. So again, with that conversation. And they're going to use their voice to express their feelings like joy or anger. So if you notice your little one is now shouting, and you can start to realize when it's an angry shout or when it's a joyful shout. They'll also start copying actions you make, like waving bye-bye or shaking their head for no. So in the first 18 months, gestures, so things like waving bye-bye and shaking your head no, all count for words. So these types of gestures, if they're under the age of 18 months, all count as a word, which is why it's important for them to start understanding gestures by the 6 to 9 month age. You can help develop these communication skills by using words to describe your baby's feelings. So this is a great way to start introducing your little one to words to try and get them to express themselves, even if they can't verbally express it to you back. So things like, you're mad that I took away the crayon, and you can chew on this rattle instead, or you can chew on this this teething toy instead. If your baby is looking at something, point at it and explains, that's a radio or that's a phone. It has sounds or it can play music. And you can also copy your baby's sounds and actions. Just like before, if they wave, you can wave back and say hello. So offering words to those gestures. And finally, their personality will really start to shine and start to show. They might love to meet new people, or they might be a little shy at meeting new people and need a while to feel comfortable with someone they don't know yet. That's all right. It is part of their personality, and that's when it'll start to develop between 6 and 9 months. They might also like a lot of sounds and activity, or they might prefer something a little bit more quiet. And they might be either very active, or they might just be more interested in observing everything. So this is all okay. Every baby has a preference in their personality. So things you can encourage to promote their personality a little bit more is notice how your baby likes to play and likes to explore. Do they like to move around a lot, or do they like to sit and watch the world around them? And then you can also see how your baby reacts to sounds, sights, and social activities. What do they seem to enjoy? What do they seem to dislike or get overwhelmed by? And then this way you can really help guide them through their play, because as we all know, the first 3-4 years of life, play is how we teach and is how they learn their environment and the world around them. Also, between 6 and 9 months, This is when you can really start helping them sleep through the night. By 6 months, most full-term babies are able to sleep through the night. Most, not all of them. And if you'd like your little one to learn this skill, it's important to be patient and consistent with how you handle their bedtime and their night wakings. And this will help your little one learn how to quickly soothe themselves and go back to sleep eventually without your help. So again, use a bedtime routine and a consistent bedtime routine. Again, this it won't happen overnight if your little one is not sleeping through the night so far. I say it takes about 20 to 30 days for something to actually happen, for any new routine to happen. So if you are introducing a bedtime routine to your 6 or 7 month old for the first time, it will take 30 days for it to be in effect. But have a bedtime routine that is convenient for you and your family. So again, like I mentioned before, things like a bath or a story or feeding them right before or lullabies or maybe a combination of all of that will help settle them, get them to go to sleep. Put your baby to bed while they're sleepy but still awake, because as we all know, once they get overtired, then it's hard to get them to sleep. But we want them to be just at that sweet spot. And then plan for protests. So make a plan for what you feel comfortable you want to do when your baby starts crying while they learn how to fall asleep. Some families will choose check in on their child several times until they fall asleep, while others will say a clear good night and don't return in the morning. So find out what works for you. What I usually recommend to start, if your little one starts crying in the middle of the night and you know it's not because they're hungry or they're in pain and they're just crying or cooing and talking, then set a timer for about anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes, whatever you're comfortable with. And if they escalate or if they continue to cry after those 2 to 5 minutes, then you go into the room. Don't turn on the light. Don't talk to them. Just pat them on the back, soothe them with touch. Let them know you're there without talking to them or interacting with them until they calm down. And then you can leave the room and then try that again. Because if you turn on the light or if you start talking to them, then they think that it's social time and it's time for them to be up. And so now for our 9 to 12-month-old babies, they can start to they are understanding more words than they can actually say. So they're understanding what you're telling them, and they can even follow simple directions like go get the ball or it's time for lunch. And then they can tell you what they want with sounds like babbles and body movement. They might even be able to say a word or two by 12 months. But again, they know what you're saying. They just can't verbally express themselves just yet. You can encourage this language development skill by telling your baby what's happening and what you'll do next. So it's like a before and after. Like after your milk, it's time for a nap. This helps them learn language and routine as well. Putting your baby's sounds and actions into words. So if they're babbling or if they're pushing a ball, being like, wow, you're pushing a ball. Or if they're pushing food away to signal that they're done, you can say, you're pushing your food away. I think you're telling me that you're all done. And name things that your baby's looking at or pointing to, especially if you're reading a book and then they can point out all the pictures. They're starting to creep and crawl and maybe potentially even walk while holding onto furniture or someone's hand. They found their own way of crawling, whether it be on their hands and on their knees, on their stomach. Maybe they're moving backwards or sideways. My nephew, his version of a crawl was to scoot on his bum. He couldn't go forward, but he kept going backwards. But that was his way of crawling. And like I mentioned before, they might by 12 months be even walking while holding on to either furniture or onto someone's hand. So to encourage this, give your little one lots of time and a safe space to practice their new crawling or walking skills. Make a trail of toys in a child-safe place in your house. So maybe like a hallway, and line up a bunch of their favorite toys or interesting objects that your child can crawl or walk to and explore. And then for cognitive and stuff like that, they know that things still exist even though they can't see them. So before, if it was gone, then they thought it was gone forever. Now they're starting to realize, hey, an object or a person still exists even if they've left the room or if I don't see them anymore, which means that now separation anxiety, you'll start to see. They might cry when you leave because they know you're still out there somewhere. They just can't see you personally and they want you to come back. And I do have a video all about separation anxiety and activities you can do to try and combat that or try to help them ease their way into it. But things you can do at home, you can play hide and seek games, and this really helps your little one learn that things disappear and reappear back. And make sure if you're leaving, let's say you're dropping them off at daycare, or maybe you're just going to the grocery store, always make sure you're saying goodbye to your little one. Never sneak out. Even though it might be heartbreaking, and it's also counterintuitive, but always make sure you're saying goodbye no matter how hard it is, because this builds trust in your little one, in you, and it helps them learn how to deal with difficult feelings. And it will get better as they get used to it. You'll also notice at this age, by 9 to 12 months, they love to do things over and over and over again. And this is really because they're practicing and figuring out how things actually work. And repetition is what's helping them build their memory. So again, as annoying as it is for them to keep dropping things and picking it back up and dropping things and picking it back up, is actually helpful for them to remember how things actually work. So help your child take the next step in their play. If they're banging 2 blocks together, see if they'd like to try and stack them. Offer your little one a ball to toss, a rattle to shake, or a scarf to swing. These are all activities that can help your children learn how things and toys work. And they also build the muscle in their hands that will eventually help them learn how to write when they get a little bit older. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can encourage your little one's thinking skills at this age. So you'll notice your baby, like we mentioned before, is naturally curious about people. They're always looking at faces, especially your face. They're constantly inspecting their hands, their feet, their toes, their fingers. When they start learning how to roll and when they can roll over, they're going to roll or they're going to crawl to get closer to a person they want to connect to or to interesting objects. Like I mentioned, they're going to have baby talk, so they're going to babble, gurgle, coo, and then they're going to try and wait for your response. Your baby's also curious about different actions and stuff. So they'll bang and shake objects to see what they can do. They will pull on long hair or earrings to see how it works. They'll use sounds or facial expressions and gestures to catch your attention. Other things you're going to see, they're going to put things in their mouth whether or not they're dangerous or inedible. And it's not because they want to eat it, it's because that's how they're trying to explore the object by putting it in their mouth. And they're going to watch for things that move. So all of these is really what's going to help your baby learn and build their confidence that they can try to problem solve and learn how things work and learn how they can make things work. So what you can do is really to offer interesting objects to explore, such as fabrics or various textures, a ball of sticky tape, a wooden spoon, a metal spoon, so that they can touch and they can compare. You can respond to their efforts to communicate by using words to describe what they're experiencing. Like I've said several times throughout this, it's very important to label everything for them with words, and to communicate, just so that they're not that they'll repeat after you, but they're exposed to those words. You can also delight in their discoveries. So if they've taken attention to their hand for the first time or their feet, you can go, wow, you found your hands. Look what they can do. Or, wow, look, you found your feet. Good job. You can also provide the help your little one needs to problem solve. So if they're trying to figure out how to to turn a page, you can do a hand over hand like in this picture and help them turn the page, or showing them how to do things so that they can copy you. But before you jump in, give them a chance to do it themselves. And then you can also support your baby's growing memory and ability to understand new ideas. You'll really start to see their memory develop as they recognize familiar people. They'll anticipate for routines. They'll respond by either turning or smiling or giggling when they hear their own name. And they'll show pleasure or joy when they see a familiar object or a favorite book or a toy. So you can encourage this memory by really playing disappearing and reappearing games like peekaboo, or make a simple game of hiding objects to find. And this helps develop your little one's memory and teach them about object permanence and how objects will always come back to them. So you can always get like a blanket and a favorite toy and hide the toy in the blanket and get them to pop up. You can also encourage your child to explore objects and toys in different ways by touching, banging, shaking, and rolling the same toy. It can help your child learn about how things work. And you can talk with your child about what he's doing or they're doing. Wow, you got the truck to move by pulling on the string. Or, oh, you made a sound by banging with your hand. You can help your little one become a good problem solver. So babies learn to problem solve by examining and learning new objects and people they encounter. So like I mentioned, when they keep dropping the toy or objects, and then they apply what they've learned to new situations. So for example, if a 7-month-old has figured out that they know it's strangers, so who they know and who they don't know. So they'll hold their arms out so that you'll pick them up, but they'll bury their head in your chest if a new person tries to talk to them, and stuff like that. So problem solving is critical thinking skills that can help your little one be successful now as well as later in school, and then continue on into their adulthood. So what you can do to support their problem-solving skills is to provide support to them. So watch your baby carefully, see what they're trying to do, and see what they can do. If they're trying to roll over to reach an interesting object, and you know they can roll over, encourage them to go as far as they can and then bring it close just close enough for them that they can get it and to explore it. So you want it to be challenging, but not too challenging for them that they get frustrated and give up. You can also model problem solving yourself. So if they're struggling to take the top off of a container or to stack a block, then you would do it for them and then put it back and let them try. So for example, in this picture, this person is stacking the block for the baby, and then you can take the block off and give the block to the baby and see if they can try to repeat the same thing that you just did. Also, exploring differences in objects is a great strategy to use as your little one is trying to figure out how the world works by putting objects into categories. So they'll notice similar features in very different objects. So for example, a flower, a rattle, and someone's nose are all very different, but they all can be grasped. So that's when you notice they'll start reaching out for like hair or nose, because they know those are things that can be grabbed onto. Babies will also notice differences among similar objects. So if they're given a piece of, for example, a furry fabric and then a piece of a rubber band or rubber fabric that are the same size, shape, and color, you'll notice that the baby, like I mentioned before, because they prefer soft, they'll pat the fur, but then they'll squeeze the rubber fabric, and this shows they have some idea about how textures feel. So what you can do to encourage this is when you go out for a walk, you can do like a touching walk. So on your walk together, you can hold your baby's hands up to like a bumpy tree trunk or a leaf or grass, or you can even stop and listen to the cars going by, or things that you can hear, so the birds, things that they can see. So when a touching walk isn't just all about what they can feel, but what they can see, what they can hear. You can even talk about the wind if they feel a breeze. You can also look at books that put objects into categories. So while your baby won't be able to understand how to sort objects just yet, these activities that you expose them to will help them build those skills over time. And then you can make everyday activities teachable moments. So I've covered this in speech and language in everyday routines. But children learn so much during routines like feeding, diapering, and bath time. So what you can do to support their thinking skills during everyday routine is to make the most out of your daily routines. Let your baby help drop clothing into the basket or into the washing machine. Hand her like soft and light groceries that they can help put on the table. Sing a song about body parts as you change their diaper. These routine activities are not so routine for your little baby. These are all new experiences for them. So teach them how things work. You can also give your child some everyday toys. So see how a wooden spoon or a whisk make very different sounds when tapped on a pot lid, or make a scarf through a cardboard paper towel tube, and then you can make the scarf appear and disappear. And then let your child feel the difference between the brush used on their hair and the teeth on the comb. Activities like this will give your child a chance to discover the functions of objects, which is a very important part of problem. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got a lot of information or new information out of this video. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but as you can tell, the videos for the month of March will be all information based, very information heavy. There won't be a lot or any activities or videos that your little one will enjoy. So this is all for you, the caregivers. So Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you have any questions or concerns about development in general, my email is in the description box below. So go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook, and I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.